Finishing off these prelims, we got another veteran presence with Carlos Condit and Max Griffin ending us off. This is a great fight, I think, for both guys. They're around a similar age range. They have, pretty much the same build, everything like that. I think fighting style wise, it's going to be one of those technical striking battles, and I think that Carlos Condit's chin has always held up for him. You look at Max Griffin's recent fight with Song Kanan. I mean, that was just really good patience, right? He was able to pick his shots, was using the kicks, and the moment the opportunity came to land that big straight, he did. And then right when he got to the fence, you can tell that he was very much trying to make it so he feinted and then just landed a big power shot with, honestly, Kanan was out for a while. The thing I like about that one is you see Max Payne's, I like the heart. I like the technical game there, but there is an aspect of durability and even in terms of just getting tired as the fight goes on. So a guy like Carlos Condit, if you don't take him down, I think that his ability to technically strike with you is pretty much at an elite level. He's been in there with the best of the best. Man, he's been one of the best of the best for most of his career. And I think that's where, despite that massive losing streak that he's now making a comeback from, that's where we still always give him that respect, right? It's kind of a running joke with all of the pundits and people that follow the sport so well that, that's a guy you just got to take down. I don't know who wants to stand with the natural born killer, but I mean, that to me is just a dumb move from a game plan perspective. But with that said, you look at this fight, I think Max Payne has a lot of takedowns under his belt in previous fights, but in terms of excitement, in terms of action, I can see this fight, staying on the feet for quite some time. You talk about the takedown defense, right? 39% for our boy Carlos Condit there, with Max Griffin's 51% accuracy. It would be interesting to see maybe if Carlos can get some top position in that sense. He's been working those grappling matches, just had one with Jake Ellenberger where he finished him up pretty quickly in that first minute or two. But that's where, for me, I'm just really curious to see where Carlos Condit's game is going at this age. It's just always been one of those things where, if you can take him down and hold them, it's pretty much a clean cut, easy victory in that sense. But at the same time, he does have the ability to get back to his feet. It's just the actual takedowns themselves seem to land, and it's all about what you can do with that time on the ground. GSP was one of the first guys to really exploit that, and I think that in this case, you have two guys that can very much distance strike so well. I'm going to give Carlos Condit the creativity and versatility edge here, but I do like Max Payne's combos. I like the patience. I like that he looks for his shots before throwing them. He's a pretty powerful guy, and despite not getting all the finishes all the time, after the Kanan Song fight was a great example of where you saw a guy pick his shots, not go too crazy. And the big thing for him was, I'm sure he was happy to finish it because it also looked like he was getting kind of tired from throwing with so much power and trying to finish so big in that first round. So that for me is just like really where I see this fight. If it's a stand-up technical battle, especially in rounds 2 and 3, I can see Condit having such good success. He seems to take the damage, wear it well, and just keeps pushing forward and lands for points. There's so many fights of his where you look back and you're like, well, I feel like he should have won that more decisively. I mean, you look at the Robbie Lawlers and the Johnny Hendricks of the world, like those fights will always be remembered as some of the best ever. And it's because a guy like Carlos Condit keeps you on the edge of your seat. He's just so exciting. And the fact of the matter is his style just keeps fights so close. And in this case, you look at Max Griffin's, I keep calling him Max Payne. I'm so down with that that nickname. But for me, it's all about smarts and game plan here. And it just would be really, really tough to not see Max Griffin use his energy at the utmost highest to try and land takedowns, to make Condit work, to get ahead on the scorecards, then maybe fight a point battle. Because for me, outside of that really big Dan Hardy finish, Carlos Condit's just a very, very elite technical striker, and he lands with straight effectiveness. I think that he's able to do damage against almost anybody, and that's where he finds success. Now, on the flip side, you got to avoid those distance battles. And I think if Max Payne can get it to that boxing range, get it to the ground at some point, those are the ways that he's going to steal this round. I do not believe he's going to be able to knock out Carlos Condit. It's just, that's a feat that, many men have tried and plenty have failed. So I just think that this is a relatively close fight, but at the same time, it's like you look at it from a game plan perspective. And if Max Payne is that good of a wrestler and is able to take it down, he has good muscle on the frame too. You know, he's got a couple inches shorter than Carlos Condit. I think that's what helps him add a bit of that muscle frame. And so if he's the stronger guy and he's getting it up against the fence and he's doing all those little dirty things that some of the, you know, mainstream fans aren't a fan of, there's a chance he can grind out this win. And so it's just really interesting for me to think about where I'd want to see these lines, because it's like Condit will be in my head forever as like a little 20-year-old kid trying to, you know, fall in love with this sport. But then you have Max Payne Griffin, who very much has the tools to pull off what in my brain is being called an upset. So based on that, maybe it's favoritism. I'm going to lean Condit as the favorite. The 2-0 recent record plays a part there. And I think that as he, you know, prolongs his career, I think the little things like avoiding the takedowns and those kinds of things, as much as he's worked on it over in the prime of his career, it hopefully does a bit better against guys like Max Griffin, who aren't the GSPs of the world. So let's take a quick look. I'm going with Condit. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I knew I was so biased there. I'm obviously leaning Max Payne in terms of a pick'em right now, and you can see that in the odds. Carlos Condit opening as a plus 150 and has reached as high as a plus 170 on some sites. I mean, betonline.ag, which is one of the biggest ones promoted by the fighters. Feel free to go take Carlos Condit at a plus 170 if that floats your boat. But Max Payne, I mean, he's coming in at minus 175 opener and now sitting around that minus 185 to minus 200 range. Very surprising in some ways, but at the same time, it's like when the path to victory is just so clear with a fighter, and in this case with Condit and the ground game and the takedowns, you know, it's easy to see that the lines are playing into that as well. I think that the two, you know, fights that he just had were very much, you know, your get back on your feet fights with two guys from, you know, basically his era in Court McGee and Matt Brown. But now it's like getting back to your feet wet. Max Griffin is not a young cat by any means, but I think he's definitely shown a lot more prowess and a lot more up and coming potential than some of the previous guys we've seen. But that's not taking anything away from Court McGee. Side note, the guy looks phenomenal after becoming a father again. But for me, I'm really liking what Max Payne brings to this table. And I think that Condit has a lot of work to do to avoid the takedowns, use the kicks like crazy, and keep avoiding the ground, keep avoiding the boxing range where, you know, you can get into those body locks and push up against the fence. I think that's the easiest ticket for him to seal that victory.